Welcome everybody to Touton Live. This is a conversation we have with winemakers, owners, and distillers of our esteemed estates. And this is our last one of the year. So it's really exciting that we have Manuel Lobo with us today. He's the head winemaker of Quinta de Crasto in the Douro Valley of Portugal. So I've been excited to do this conversation with you for a while, Manuel. So it's great to finally have you live. Thank you so much for joining us today.
You're welcome, David. It's a great pleasure to be here and to explain a little bit what is Crasto and what we are doing at the estates, and to try to pass a little bit of our passion. So it's a great pleasure.
No, it's amazing. And I've been to Portugal and I've seen it firsthand. It's such a beautiful country and rich traditions. And we're going to dive into a bit of that today. Hopefully it'll encourage everyone to visit Portugal and to drink more Portuguese wines, because I don't think we drink enough in the United States.
I'm sure you need to drink more. I'll
Exactly.
try to do my best.
Drink more. So before I hand it over to you to give us a bit of your history and history of the estate, I just want to show everybody a brief picture of our map here. So we are located within Portugal today. So we're just in the Douro Valley, so the purple region just above my head. And it follows the same river valley that actually flows from Spain. So it's the same river valley that originates and is the same region as Ribera del Duero in Spain. So you can see here, you have Ribera del Duero right to the left of me here, and then it flows through the Douro, which is where we're at today in Portugal. And if you zoom in on the Douro, even for me as a wine person, it's complicated to see how big the appellation is. But within Portugal, there's 31 different regions, wine regions within Portugal. So it's a really complicated wine region. And then today we're just going to be focusing on the Douro Valley. And Quinta de Crasto is known for their production of phenomenal ports, but also non-fermented, non-fortified, I should say.
Fortified wines, yeah.
Non-fortified white and red wines, which we're also going to discuss today. So I want to hand it over to you, Manuel. So give us a bit of your history, talk a bit about the estates, and give us just a baseline of where we're speaking about today.
Sure, David. Well, Quinta do Crasto, it's a family-owned estate, as you said, is located in the north of Portugal, just in the middle of the Douro wine region, and just in front on the right bank side of the Douro River. It's a family-owned estate, and the first registers of winemaking, they come since 1615. There's the family, so it belongs to the Roquette family. On the left there on the image is Jorge Roquette, which is the father, and then Miguel, the son, who is in charge for sales, and the one who travels more to the US. Then in the middle, it's Leonor, the Miguel's and his mother, married to George, and the estate comes from her side of the family since long time. Then it's Tomás. Tomás, it's the taller, and is the CEO of the company, and there is Rita, who is the sister. So. Everyone helps, and it's a family-owned estate that has been growing over the last 30 years with quite a good expression, but mainly, and as you said, focus in the high premium dry wines, and of course with the fortified wines as well, because we are in the middle of the region. There you can see a good image of the estates. Actually, it's half to harvest, so we can see a lot of colors. And just near the river, we see that small hill where is the winery and the office. It's a beautiful landscape, so it's for the ones that are following us here and have visited the state, they already know that the Douro, it's a massive and beautiful wine region that lives only from the viticulture and winemaking. So there's a very old vineyard there. It's called Vinha Maria Teresa, which is a vineyard that has more than 100 years of age. It was considered already the fourth best vineyard in the world, and wow. So it's very special. It's a region with a lot of challenges for the viticultures and winemakers.
Yeah, well, we're going to talk a bit about the challenges and a bit more about this vineyard here, one of the specific wines that come from it here in a bit. But talk to us just a bit about winemaking in the region, because I know it's not like Napa Valley or, regions in Bordeaux where there's 5 grape varietals, maybe 10 grape varietals being produced. There's 30 plus, 50 plus varietals there, right? It's a blend.
Yeah, exactly. It's Douro is very special because of that. It's a region that is, first of all, it's the oldest wine denomination in the world. So we have more than 250 years of legislation in order to keep and to preserve. Is a region with a lot of traditions, but basically at the beginnings it was all this legislation was made because of port wine, but nowadays the dry wines are getting a lot of interest around the world because the region is producing beautiful dry wines, both white and reds, but it's quite recent with 30 years maximum, and the first states to bet in dry wines. The challenges of the viticulture is exactly that, as you said. It's like, for instance, a vineyard like that with more than 100 years old, and the one before, it's a vineyard that you have a filled blend, a mix of grape varieties. So how do you pick a vineyard when you have more than 50 different grape varieties? So all of them, they have different timings of maturation. So it's a lot about understanding what's going on in that specific terroir, and understanding how these varieties vary. Optimum. All the challenges, they start with the viticulture, because it's so different that really makes a difference winemaking process. And then at a winery, what we do here at Crasto is we believe that we should put in a bottle the identity of that parcel, of that specific vineyard. So basically what I try to do, me and my team, what I say to them, okay, our goal here is to extract the maximum potential that we can from that vineyard and put inside of this bottle. And very important, it's to don't damage the potential there is in the vineyard. So because it's very easy in the winery, that's with all of the things that we can do with the new technologies, all the addings that we can do to wines, that we can lose this identity. And so for us, it's very, very important just to make sure that we keep this identity and this differentiation factor, because it's difficult to explain a wine, but so that's why we are here. It's a region that if you like to try some of our wines, you will find a lot of different grape varieties, and probably varieties that you've never tasted before, but very interesting grape varieties. For the whites, with great natural acidities; for the reds, a lot of complexity, full of texture, and wines, and the red wines that can age in bottle for years and years, which is very, very good.
So I can't even. So you were just. I mean, you went through it, but just to reiterate, from this vineyard that we're looking at, you have over 20 different grape varieties, and you're harvesting them all at different times, fermenting them all separately, and then blending them back together. So it's like you're making 20 different wines just to make one. So I can, and then
David,
you're doing.
I'm sorry, I'm going to correct you. We have specifically on that vineyard, I said more than 50, but specifically we have until now 54 already discovered. And that specific vineyard, it's a vineyard that we are, it has a research and development project since 2009. And it's a 4.7 hectare vineyard with more than 30,000 vines there, and each vine has a GPS coordinate because it's a vineyard that it's a very important study. From that vineyard comes one of our top brands, which is the Theresa. It's the name of the vineyard. And we started this project exactly to try to understand what varieties that we have there, and more than that, we wanted to make sure that we wouldn't lose any genetic material, because when vines die, we need to make sure that we replant in the same spot, in the same GPS coordinate, the same variety, the variety with the same genotype. Of course, this is a little bit more technical, but it makes a lot of sense if we want to preserve this genetic map of the vineyard, and making sure that we can this vineyard can carry on and without this complexity, and we don't lose any genetic material. So, but this is a good example of the complexity of the region, and the good thing is it could be complex, but the wines could be not very interesting, but the result is impressive. The wines that are coming from these vineyards are amazing.
No, you're very lucky. And again, so 55 different grape varietals to make one different wine. And I've never heard of anybody GPSing each single vine. So
it's a little bit crazy. It was a work that we didn't know if we were going to carry that through, but at the end, after 10 years, we know a lot of things already from of this vineyard, and but it's a lot of work. You imagine a guy with a GPS stick goes around each vine, so it took a long time. And nowadays we have a specific software, just to where we can put all the data of this vineyard, and it's impressive. Now we have we have a lot of things going around with this vineyard. It's very interesting.
It's super cool. I never heard of anything like that. It's so interesting. And so speaking about this, we're speaking about the grape varietals and the complexities of the diversity there, but I also want to speak a bit about the elevation and just where you're at, the aspect to the river, but also the steepness. So you only have two rows per terrace here, and then I mean, how do you even manage that? It seems.
Yeah, it's depending on first of all, the Douro, it's a mountain viticulture area, so when we mountain viticulture is totally different than when we have a flat land and we plant vineyard, but so we need to adapt the vines according to the landscape. That's another challenge for the viticulture, and but it's amazing. The final result is amazing, because you can see at the pictures that we can see lines of vines going around the terraces. It's really beautiful. It's very interesting in a way that we need to control a lot of things that we don't need to control in flat land. We have a lot of erosion on the terraces, which is a big concern. So we need to do cover crops on the terraces. So it's a very demanding viticulture. It's very expensive, the number of vines that we can put per hectare, if it is that style of vineyard with terraces with 2 rows, it's very low. So if we talk about production, it's much lower than a modern viticulture area region, and because of that, it's also the mechanization of the viticulture. It's also very difficult because with these terraces, the steepness, so there is not a common tractor that can go through there. And even to pick the grapes, it's like you were showing the picture in an old vineyard there. It's everything by hand, but it's tougher because it's the landscape is like that, and so it takes a lot of work, and it's very demanding for the people who harvest every day. So it's a good gem.
Yeah, exactly. Well, just seeing and hearing the amount of work and effort that goes into producing these wines, they're still, I mean, shockingly affordable for the most part. I mean, you're making some ultra premium wines, which, deserve that price point and much higher in my opinion. But I mean, the wines are still very approachable and affordable. And I wanted to just mention quickly before we move on to kind of the production, is the soil here, and that's one of the main reasons why this area has become so popular. So the slate is right next to the river.
Yeah.
And then in other areas further north, I believe it's granite, right? It's too hard for the vines. So here is kind of a sweet spot.
Yeah, uphill. If you go uphill, you move from slate or schist, like we say it, to granite. Mm-hmm. And so all the the white wines, we produce them in granite soils because we like to have the advantage of the altitude and the soil to have fresher wines and to have higher acidity. So our goal is to pick fruit at a better balance that we can. And if we come down the mountain, it's much more slate, much more schist, and the top red wines and the top vintage ports, and they come from these areas. But of course, as you were saying, we have also the exposure, because when in a mountain region viticulture, you have east exposure, south, north, west, and that makes a lot of difference, and which I normally say it's a big puzzle to solve every year, and but it's great. It's a super motivation, and above all, we have different pieces of the puzzle that we can use to recreate balanced wines. So it's super for a winemaker. It's fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah, you're never bored. That's for sure. It's
yeah, yeah, that's for sure.
The last time we were speaking on the other day, I connected with you, and you were tasting different samples for the ports, and there was like a couple hundred different samples you were going back and forth between. Just that alone seems like its own job in itself. So
yeah,
I want to jump.
It's my daily routine, so it's great. I start drinking at 8 o'clock in the morning.
Exactly.
It's basically that, but it's great.
I want to talk just a moment about some of your different viticultural practices, because I know you're doing some super traditional, as we see a picture here, but then also using the best of modern as well. So tell us just a bit about this picture and what's happening.
So this is a picture that really shows how do we trade the fruit in the port wines, and this is very sorry. Give me just 1 minute. The kids arrived home. It's a
yeah, no problem. They can join in if they want. That's fine.
Salvador, agora temos de falar baixinho, tá bem? Obrigado. So this is a very important process. As you can see, there is granite lagars there, granite stone lagars, which are very important because when we put the fruit in, we fill the lagars and then we food trade. We food trade in order to have a very high extraction in the beginning of the process of the vinification. Then this process, we can use it with a robo nowadays or with our team, and it's very interesting because the results nowadays, the robos are very impressive and they can do a very good job, but the best way is to do it like that. Traditionally, we could say, some people ask me, oh, but this is for tourism, or this is for guys to come to see a different thing. No, this is because the result at the end is much more impressive and it's much more interesting. And the idea is to extract as much as we can the color when we don't have alcohol, in order to softer the extraction along the fermentation. So basically,
so how long does this process happen? The foot trotting in the
the foot trotting since long time, since the time. Yeah, how long does it take? And during the vinification,
how long does it take? Yeah,
is that your question? Yeah.
Yes. How long? How long are these guys walking back and forth?
Oh, yeah. That's a good question. Yeah. So when the fruit comes into the lagar, we say we need to do the corte. Corte means the cuts. So the team goes in, and then they stay there, but with a very specific technique. As you can see, that all of these guys are in line, and they need to be organized, because otherwise the result won't be as good. So they do this for 4 hours straight. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a workout.
Well, it's not straight. They after 2 hours they stop 10 minutes, but then they come. But it's a very demanding job. It's a very demanding job. Yeah.
Yeah, tourists see this and they're like, oh, I want to do that. But yeah, once you get in there 30 minutes and you realize you have another hour and a half till you get a 10-minute break.
Yeah, I wish that yes, I normally say, okay, if you want to do it, you need to stay there. They look at me like this. Oh, 4 hours? Yes, okay. No, you can go there a couple of minutes and you can experience. And because it's very important, there is a lot of people that go there and they for them it's a lifetime experience. They won't forget what's happening.
And I think you're one of the few regions who do this on a regular basis, on a large scale. I know a few crazy winemakers doing it in South Africa with Pinotage, but outside of that, I think Portugal and specifically the Douro for ports, you're the only ones doing it.
Yeah, but it's very important. Imagine a vintage port. It's a port with a lot of extraction, a lot of structure. It's a wine that we bottle and that we hope that can age for 100 years. So this work, then the timing of the vinification, of the fermentation, it's very important. So we take it very seriously, and of course nowadays we have all kind of equipment to help us. But the traditional food trading, it's something that we will keep, and for sure, it's something that we will keep.
No, I love the tradition. It's super cool. And then you have a new winery, or a newer winery, that's state of the art as well.
Now we have some, that is recently we have the winery. It's divided in 3 parts. We have this winery has already 13 years old, but it's a stainless steel winery. That's the one on the picture. But we have another winery. It's state of the art down that has 2 years. So, and this both wineries they can give a good response for the work that we need to do with our fruits. But this specific winery, it's already a winery that was designed especially for our vineyards, and especially for the old vineyards with more than 100 years old, where we can separate the plots and work them in very small batches. So each we have 17 there, 17 batches of stainless steel with the double jacket, all the conditions to make sure that we can extract that identity that comes from the vineyard, and without damaging that potential. That's very important. So each year when we have this, I think I must say this because it's very challenging for me. Each year we have the different timings of maturations on the fruit, and that's normal in every viticulture region in the world. But when they are planted mixed, and there are years that are more challenging. So it's not possible to predict and to have a recipe wine, because if all the varieties, they have different behaviors every year, and they are mixed, it's very challenging to manage the extraction and the fermentation. So what I base on is on tasting. So of course I'm at the winery every day. We work 24 hours, and all the working sheets, all the working orders for the team is made based on the tasting. And that's very important, because if we go, imagine a year that the tannins are a little bit more green, a little bit more aggressive, if we extract too much, probably we can damage the natural balance of that vineyard. Or if the fruit is too hot and too jammy, probably if we extract too much, we can get a wine that is a little bit too jammy. So different things that can happen. So it's very important that to be focused and to make sure that we know our vineyards. Before being winemakers at Crasto, we are viticultures. So I spend more time in the vineyard than in the winery, and then in the winery, it's just to making sure that everything rolls as we believe it should. Yeah,
Yeah, no, I respect that too, because a lot of times you hear, or I talk to people, and it's like you have a vineyard manager, and then you have the winemaker, and they talk,
yeah.
but they're not, the winemakers a lot of times aren't in the vineyard. So I respect that.
Yeah, we are a team. It's I'm always the head viticulture guy. It's Tiago, and we get along very well. It's a good team, and all the decisions are made. The big decisions of picking are made in the vineyard by tasting berries, with us both going there and making sure there is a straight line and a very good connection between winemaking and viticulture. It's very important in the Douro and I believe it's the key to success. Yeah, that's for sure.
For sure. Before we have to move on and speak about a few of the wines. Before I do, I just wanted to show a few pictures of your cellar, which is just unbelievable. It's a beautiful cellar.
Yeah, a lot of barrels and a lot of work, and we have in total nowadays we have 2,600 barrels. But imagine, so we have a lot of different fermentations. So we have only for all vineyards we have 42 plots, and some of these plots are divided because they are bigger plots. They are divided in 2-3 fermentations, so we get more than 100 fermentations that they go to barrel. So it's very important to know exactly the cooperages, what the barrel is going to give to this specific wine in order to do the right match between the barrel and the vineyard. That's another thing. For me, it's very important that the oak pays the right respect to the vineyard. Because if it overcomes the vineyard, we can lose this identity and this freshness that comes from the vineyard. That it's very important in the Douro.
Exactly, and I feel like with you, we could have had 3 sections. We could have had a viticulture portion, then we could have had a winemaking. I feel like we could even have a whole talk just on barrels because they are so complex.
No, yeah, it's super complex, and also it's very interesting. So it's another puzzle. You have a puzzle in the vineyard, and then you have a big puzzle also in the barrel cellar. Yeah.
So, as happens every time, we're running short on time, but I want to speak just briefly about the first tier of your wines, which are your fortified wines, your port wines. So, very popular in the United States. We sell a lot of the finest reserve. So, tell me just a bit about the finest reserve and its difference from the vintage port, which I have a picture of that as well.
Yeah. Well, Finest Reserve, it's a wine that it's made to be a good introduction for high quality port wine. So it's already a wine with a lot of structure, a lot of fruit concentration, a wine that can age in bottle for sure, but it's a wine that it's made to be an introduction in order, okay, let me try a good port wine, a good ruby port. And I believe this wine has a very interesting relation price quality. So I think for people to understand what is a super premium port wine like the vintage port that we're going to talk next, it's very important to understand the concept of port wine and the Finest Reserve. I think it's I think it's a super wine for the quality, for the price quality, and so it's a very good introduction. Yeah. Also comes from old vineyards and very good fruit, but it's a different style of vinification. Okay.
So the right now for the vintage port, I know we have 2015 and 2016. I know that 2016 was one of the best vintages in the history of the appellation. 2015 was amazing too, but 16 was, I know, really stellar. Tell us just a bit about the vintage in 2016.
Well, 2016 is a fresh year in the Douro. It's a year that we had a lot of rainfall during winter, so the vines they had a lot of there was quite a water availability on the soil during the cycle of the vines, but and then during the maturation season, which was very dry, and the vines had beautiful canopies. They were very healthy. And so, and also the nights were very cold and the days hot. So the difference of temperatures between night and day, it was very interesting. This gave the possibility of having a very slow maturation of the fruit. So we have great freshness and great concentration and very, very, very good tannins, which for port wines, it's very important. So the 16 is a massive wine in every way. Very elegant because of the freshness, and it's a wine that because of this structure, it has the potential to age for a long time. It's a wine that I really love. It's very young, as you know. Port wine is a wine that it's bottled and it's made to age in bottle. And then when we open this bottle with some friends, hopefully, the goal is to at least finish that bottle that night. So it's very important that, because when we take the cork from a bottle of vintage port and give it a little bit of air, all of the potential is that we can feel it on that moment is impressive.
And that's a good point, because vintage port obviously needs to age, so the more bottle age, the better. But then, like you said, vintage port, once the cork is pulled, you need to consume that ideally within a day or two. But versus the Finest Reserve, which could stick around for a little bit longer, and it's more approachable, and you don't have to worry about aging it. So
yeah,
I want to move,
exactly.
I want to move into some of your dry wines, because we're running out of time here, but we can't leave without speaking about at least a few of, you have a huge range of white and red dry wines being produced throughout the region. So tell us a bit about the Superior.
Well, the superior, we have white and red. As I told you, the white wines, they come from 600 meters of altitude, granite soils, and it's a fantastic white wine. I have it, yeah, actually, I have it here.
Oh, nice.
It's one of my favorites. Well, but I was talking about the white wine and saying that the Crasto Superior White, it's a very interesting wine because it shows a new era and the freshness of the Douro that comes from high altitude vineyards, granite soils. It's really something quite new for the region. Over the last 10 years, a new range of winemakers, they changed totally the image of what we can produce in the region. So it's very interesting. Wines are doing great. They are having great potential, aging potential. They achieve levels of complexity that we didn't imagine. We are using the Portuguese grape varieties that with great freshness, great acidity, and I think it's becoming a very interesting moment for winemaking of the whites in the Douro. Regarding the red from Superior, you know that both of these wines, they come from a vineyard that you show a while ago, a picture of a massive vineyard in the Upper Douro. So Upper Douro means superior, and near to the border of Spain, which is a project that we started 20 years ago, and is giving very good consistency in fruit quality, and the wines that are coming from there we're very happy with the quality. That's it. That's the image. It's, as you can see, it's a lot of different parcels, 2.3 kilometers along the river. And here it's on the left bank of the river because it's a hotter region, and but it's facing north. So we try to we are betting on the exposures that are fresher, a little bit more fresh. So the Douro, the Crasto Superior Red, it's a wine that it's made with the traditional grape varieties of the region, the red grape varieties, Touriga Nacional, Tinta Roriz, which is the same of Tempranillo, and Touriga Franca, which is a great Portuguese variety that gives really the backbone of the wines, full of structure, ages very nicely. And another variety that is a Portuguese grape variety that's called Sauzão. Mm-hmm. That's Sauzão has a lot of color, a lot of acidity, and really gives a potential of aging for the wines, which is very interesting.
So yeah, a lot of the varietals are foreign to Americans, but the blends, you know, it's much like the Bordeaux varietals. Each one gives a different characteristic, whether it's acidity or aromatics or spice, and you know, it gives you that complexity. So I want to, before we sign off today, we have to speak about one of your most highly regarded wines, and the Maria Theresa, which we were looking at the vineyard earlier. So tell us a bit about, this is a white, so tell us a bit about this wine.
No, that wine is the reflex of the vineyard, and a vineyard with more than 100 years old, where we have red grape varieties, pink grape varieties, white grape varieties. It's a mix, it's a field blend, and everything goes into the fermentation tank. And well, the result is a very interesting wine because the density of plantation here is much higher. We reach 7,000 plants per hectare, and very low yield production per plant, below 300 grams. It's a wine that it's very complex, but it's very demanding in viticulture and in the winemaking. It's a wine that we don't produce every year. Oh. We only produce in very special years. And if you ask me the grape varieties, I can tell you the list of the ones that we found already, the 54. But it's amazing. It's truly, this wine really shows what is the identity of the region, of the potential of the region to produce wines with this singular identity. And it's a wine that can age, I will bet, at least 30 years, because the first ones that we made, they are turning 30 years, and they are still showing some youth, and so it's a very interesting wine. It's a very interesting wine for sure.
No, it's and the you know, I don't normally speak that much about points and ratings, but this wine is consistently highly rated. This is the 2015 vintage, which we have currently in stock. Received 96 points from Robert Parker, 95 points from Wine Spectator, and this wine is always regarded as one of the best dry wines throughout the region. So it's truly a spectacular wine. So if you really want to treat yourself this holiday season,
Yeah, it's a very interesting wine.
phenomenal.
It's always a wine that it's good to decant it, to
Yep.
to give it a couple of hours on the decanter, and then we kind of have the wine with a higher expression, and then, well, you need to try it.
Yeah, no, I've tried it several times at the wines.
I know, yeah, you for sure,
But everyone else, yes.
everyone else, yeah.
So if nothing else, I hope that this discussion at least brought up some new questions about Portuguese wine for people to go out there and enjoy and experiment, try different wines. Quinta de Crasto has a huge portfolio of wines, and you know, we carry them all in our states on the East Coast. So definitely get out there, try Portuguese wines. Ports, of course, during the holiday season is phenomenal, but don't forget about the dry whites and the dry reds are just really phenomenal. So I want to thank Manuel Lobo again. Thank you for your time. You are our last conversation of the year, so it was a pleasure having you on with us. And we'll be back in 3 weeks. We're taking the next 2 weeks off because of Christmas and New Year's, and then we'll be back in the new year. So, Manuel, I just want to thank you again for your time, and it's a pleasure working with you and with your estate. It's always been one of my favorites.
David, thank you to you and to all the team, and to everyone that had the patience to listen to us. And well, because is this season, so I wish happy holidays for everyone, and 2021 with much lesser problems than the ones that we lived this year. Okay.
Exactly. We're on the way back, 2021. So cheers.
Cheers to
glass,
all.
but cheers, and
I can send one to you.
I know exactly.
That's you. Cheers.
Have a great evening, and everyone else on the East Coast, have a great day. We had a lot of snow in New York and the East Coast, so good luck with the snow, everybody, and we'll see you in 3 weeks. Cheers. Happy holidays, everyone.
Bye-bye, David. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.